Ancient technology. Comments. Why is there no evidence of Atlantis? Which is what a lot of the archaeologists try to claim, that there's no evidence of a lost advanced civilization, even though there's evidence of civilizations that are more advanced than hunter-gatherers. And that's the idea of an advanced civilization, something more than hunter-gatherers, something more than, let's put it this way for illustration purposes, hunter-gatherers, right, are like homeless people. They just live off the land. They just walk around and look for resources, right, food, shelter, right, basic stuff, survival, right. So they're like homeless people, right. And then you have people who have jobs and apartments and bills and stuff, right. Those will be the advanced civilization people, right, because they're above the homelessness, because they actually have a home, right. So any advanced civilization will have structures, right, homes, instead of just you know, finding a cave and then using it as, your house, or even creating some form of shelter in the trees, or on the ground with a whole bunch of leaves, or digging a hole in the ground, and then putting like a little makeshift roof on top. And then you got Eskimos that do the igloo thing, and this was like basically makeshift earth shelter, as they say. You just use whatever's around you and make shelter. But to be more advanced, you would use building materials, as they say, right? You would make bricks, or get a whole bunch of rocks and stack them and create, a pyramid, right? Or create a temple, whatever you want to call it, or just make a brick house or a log cabin. You can get a bunch of logs, right? Stack them together and make a cabin. And because you're using largely a lot of materials that are biodegradable, like plants. Plants are biodegradable. Can certain things made of wood be preserved and whatnot? Yes, it depends on the environment and circumstances. But not everything that's made of wood has survived the test of time, right? Not everything that's made of metal has survived the test of time. This goes on. We have very little evidence of metal tools of the past, metal wooden things of the past, like boats, right? But we have enough left over, like just a small amount, which is like, okay, they didn't make boats out of wood. They could have made it out of other materials, but we haven't found those, right? And that's the thing where I'm trying to get to. Where's the evidence for Atlantis? Well, the thing is, it'll be hard to find evidence because evidence disappeared. That's the thing, and you have to take into account if we can't find the typical evidence we're looking for, like we can't find wooden boats. If we want to assume that they made boats out of wood, so we should find a whole bunch of like really cool, partially preserved or well preserved Atlantis boats, right? Boats made in Atlantis. Because the idea of boats is, you're going to use them in the oceans, and you're going to travel the world, right? You got to travel through the oceans, not just land. You have to be able to travel through the oceans. So you think, we'll find a whole bunch of boats from Atlantis. The thing is, we're assuming that they made boats out of wood. We're also assuming that the boat sank. That's another thing. We're assuming that the boat sank, that the boats were capable of sinking, which is why they will be at the bottom of the ocean, right? And then that's how we will find them, because they were preserved. There's a possibility that the boats could have been made of materials that is meant to be biodegradable. It's meant to, if it gets if it sinks into the ocean, that it will biodegrade. Like because it's eco-friendly, right? It's green technology. So remember, Atlantis is supposed to be advanced. So why are we assuming that they're going to use primitive, inferior, harmful to the earth materials? Why wouldn't they use stuff that is biodegradable? So, for example, they could make boats out of some logs with some clay, right, and some leaves and stuff. And they created a creative method. They could have weaved. Sorry, they could have weaved a whole bunch of grass, right, to make layers, and then kind of create their own like kind of fiberglass type thing, where they're using the grass as the fiberglass fibers, and then they use like clay as the resin. So they could have created a more organic base material to use to create their boats. Their boats could have been literally a combination of like wood and terracotta clay, for example, right? They could have figured out some creative way to use pottery skills and woodworking skills together to create something they can float, something they can travel with, but also be biodegradable. So then that's why we don't have evidence of it, because they literally biodegraded. That's the whole point of biodegradable stuff, is that it would be it wouldn't harm the environment. The environment would just consume it. All right. Another possibility: what if animal bones, human bones, just again leaning towards the organic stuff, is like, what if they use a whole bunch of animal bones as building materials, right? They could have crushed up the bones, made a powder out of it, and right, and they could have, like I said, combined with some clay, right, some mud clay, and then created a really hard material that is also waterproof, right? They probably use like tree sap or something to try to make it harder, and tree resin, right, and make it more waterproof, and then that's how they were able to make like boats and stuff and travel, right? But then the boats and stuff, like I said, since they're biodegradable, because they're made of a lot of biomaterial, organic material, it would eventually biodegrade back into nature. So it'd be hard to find a really cool looking boat. Like in this image right here in the video, let's say these are not the city of Atlantis. Let's say these are the boats that I'm referring to. And they're made of bone and clay and wood, among many other things. Seashells. Like I said, it can be made of organic material, whale bones. You know, they could have dried up like whale skin or something and used that as a material to waterproof their boats or using as sails. I'm just saying that if you think along those lines, that ancient humans and advanced civilization used essentially dead animals, right, organic materials to create their technology essentially, then the likelihood of us finding that stuff will be very slim because we'll find like a whale bone and be like, oh, this is a whale bone, and then that's it. We'll identify it as a whale bone, but we won't identify it as a rudder for a boat, a what is it called? A stern to hold the sails, whatever it's called. Um, it could be one of the buoys, one of the things used to help make the boat float, right, buoyant. We don't. We just found that it's a big bone and it's a whale bone, and we're like, oh, it's a whale bone. That's all it is. No way it was ever used to make a boat because we assume we know everything. So these are things that I take into account because I understand. I mean, we want evidence that Atlantis or a lost civilization exists. But I always use the example recently, which is Göbekli Tepe and sites like that that recently were discovered that no one knew existed. We assume they exist. I always, by default, assume that there's a lost civilization because the planet is very old. Humans have been alive for hundreds of thousands of years. So, yes, there have been multiple civilizations. The most common one you'll find evidence for, more often than not, especially after certain problematic situations, cataclysms, right, would be hunter-gatherers. Because like I said, like the whole homeless person concept. When you don't have a job and a house and friends and whatnot, and you're by yourself, what happens? You're homeless, right? You're by yourself. You're basically a hunter-gatherer. Because now you need food, shelter, and something to do, right? So you're going to need to look for these resources just to survive. So the most basic human thing you'll find on this planet will be hunter-gatherers. So they will be the common thing you'll see. But what's rare, but doesn't mean it never exists. What's rare is once somebody decides, okay, I want more than just to survive. I want to keep hunting. I just want to eat when I want to eat. Right? So laziness kicks in. People like to go, oh, ancient humans are not as lazy as we are today. To a certain degree, yes. At first, they're not that lazy. At first, they gotta fish and hunt and run to chase down the food. They have to do that first. But once they do, once they get, start creating tools and stuff, making things easier, now they don't have to run. That's what bows and arrows are for. Before, you would run with a stick, this pointing at the end, and try to stab food, right? Try to stab a rabbit and then eat it, right? Cook and eat it. Now you just you make smaller little little spears, right? Pointy sticks, and make a bow with a nut stick and some vines, and boom, they have a bow and arrows. Now you can kill rabbits from a distance, and you can kill multiples. So you can hunt for multiples. You could be so much at a distance, they won't even know you're there. So you can slowly pick at them, like, yeah, I just killed 3 bunny rabbits, and they didn't even know I was here. And I'm gonna walk up and pick them up and then go cook them. Right now, I got 3 days worth of food, or a week's worth of whatever. Eventually, you will start evolving how you do things. But this nonsense of like, no, we only have evidence of hunter-gatherer, so there was no lost civilizations. But we keep finding new ones, and the proof that they even exist are stone structures. That is the biggest evidence that we find that civilizations did exist in the past, where people did like, we like this area. This area is really good. We're gonna create a civilization here. We're gonna create structures here so people can stay here, and generations after generations of humans can live here and survive here instead of constantly traveling around and chasing animals, chasing food around, the world. They can stay here, especially like during winter. Summer is the best time to be out and hunting and stuff like that. But when winter comes, that's the worst time to be hunting. That's the worst time to be trying to go get something to eat and trying to survive. So you want to find a way to make sure that you always have food and you can grow the food and not worry about the food ever getting destroyed by nature or being eaten by animals. So you start doing your own in-house farming to create a structure, right? Like the city of Atlantis, right? Create a structure, right? A city walls first, right, for defense from animals and anybody else, even from the elements, right? The walls can be used to prevent gusts of wind and and snow and stuff like that, right? And flooding and those goes on, right? Earthquakes, right? Polygonal walls. Anyway, and then you start building, sheltering homes for people to live in. You need some type of government, some type of leadership structure. You're gonna need some type of security, right? So you're gonna need some young, strong guys to provide security. So definitely gotta take whatever we can to account when it comes to ancient lost civilizations. So these are some examples. I could come up with a billion reasons why we can't find, quote unquote, evidence of the lost ancient civilization, Atlantis. Even though to me the biggest evidence of Atlantis' existence is literally our own existence. Just like when people be online talking about, prove to me God is real. And it's like, okay, well, the reason why people believe God is real is because we exist. So the evidence of God is literally our own existence. And I always use this analogy, which is to explain that concept is We don't need to see your great grandparents, right? Your parents, your parents, right? Right. So we don't need to know who your grandparents' parents are, right? The fact that we know, because you start from yourself, you exist, you have parents, mother and father, right? They have mothers and fathers for them to exist, right? And you keep going backwards with that logic. You had to have had at some point great grandparents, great grandparents, all the way up to just come being an ancestor of yours, right? Like what they say, like 90% of the human DNA is, or humans are descendants of Genghis Khan, or whatever. So can't say he don't exist, right? when we're evidence that he existed because our DNA, distinguishes, right? We're descendants of his, so supposedly, right? But our existence is evidence of that, all right? Just like it's like saying, oh, no way, humans exist in the past. How did humans not exist in the past when we exist now in the present time? And in the future, we will hopefully still exist if people stop being butthurt and stop talking about they'd rather be single instead of being in a relationship and making babies. All right. So hopefully we don't go extinct because of feminism and stupidity. So going back is like it has for our current advanced civilization to exist. That means humans in the past also have to have had the same idea, like, hey, let's create civilization, let's create something that can last for a long time because humans are going to be on this planet for a long time. So we need something more permanent for a long time. So we need a civilization, rules and structures. Because the thing that causes civilizations to exist in the first place is rules to help govern, control a large group, a large population. Because if not, we're all enemies. We're all fighting for the same, you know, apple and chicken and fishing hole. That, well, this place has a lot of the best crabs. So I can eat some good crab legs. Well, if we don't agree to work together, so everybody could get some crab legs, we'll just be fighting because human greed, right? That's the thing. So to control human greed, lust and all these things, we have to create rules and structure. Especially if we want to prevent overpopulation, because the more humans is created in a specific location, the less resources there is available. So the abundance of resources reduces. Right? If you only have 1,000 crabs, but you have 2,000 people that love eating crabs, well, that's gonna be a problem. 50% of the people will get to eat crabs, the other 50% won't, and that 50% is gonna be mad and unhappy at the other 50% because they did get to eat crabs, and they want to eat crabs. So now they hate the other part, and they look at the other part. Doesn't sound familiar what I'm saying? The rich get rich and the poor get poor. The rich got crabs and the poor don't got crabs. See what I'm getting there? And when all the resources and all the good stuff starts getting, pushed to one side, one group, and the other group doesn't have access to that, it becomes a problem. Because then the group that don't have, they want. Well, they're going to try to get it, and that's where you start getting fights, and that's where empires are, falling. And that's one way that a lost advanced civilization can fall apart. It could have literally been an advanced civilization that was starting to get built, and because of infighting, because of the rich get rich and the poor get poorer, right? Greed, human greed, and jealousy and whatnot, they start fighting each other, destroy the civilization, and then boom, that's it. Because for all we know, Atlantis was being built, right? There was some advancements happening there. But then because of, like I said, infighting, they were like, F it. And they flooded Atlantis. That could have been what the Atlantis story is about. Not that some great mysterious flood came out of nowhere. No, there's just been the humans that was trying to create a civilization. It was like, F it. Screw this Atlantis civilization idea. Let's just scrap it. And they flooded on purpose. You know? We don't know until we know.